I'm Mimi Luttrell. I'm the chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. Welcome to the second forum on our Open Space and Recreation Plan update. Our first forum, first of all, let me introduce our graduate students here. We have enlisted the help of the Conway School to help us update this plan. And Helmy and Allison have been working feverishly on this plan. And that the first forum, we took input on important places and certain recreational activities or facilities that people would like, and then incorporated that into this presentation. In this presentation, they'll look more at goals, what you think are important moving forward for this plan for goals, and from there we'll work on an action. So take it away.
All right, so hi everyone, thank you all for coming this evening. So for those of you who may not know, what is an OSRP? An OSRP is an open space and recreation plan. And it's a planning document that summarizes a town's natural and cultural resources, their open space and recreation goals, which is what we're specifically focusing on this evening. And it includes an environmental analysis, which again, we'll start to talk a little bit more about this evening, the community setting of the town, and then it also offers an inventory of open space lands, so current open space lands as well as priority to be conserved for the future. And again, a 7-year action plan to meet these goals. So what's been accomplished since 2009? Quite a bit actually, and this is why the OSRP is so important, because it lays out goals the town can identify and then actions to help them accomplish it. So since 2009, which is when the last one was published, there have been new recreational and open spaces, such as finishing construction of Triangle Park, small tot lots for toddlers, expanding use of the Southborough Community Garden, and then replacing lights at the school fields. There's also been new activities and educational initiatives, like hiring a naturalist to lead interpretive walks, workshops on invasive species, big night to help with amphibian crossings across motorways on especially busy migration nights. There's also been more research and planning initiatives, like establishing a trails committee, a town forest stewardship subcommittee, Friends of Rec group. The master sidewalk plan has been updated, which is great. Working with the surrounding communities to develop a Metro West regional connectivity plan to identify parcels of mutual interest that the communities around Southborough can also work to protect. Finishing the subdivision open space database, including information on deeds and levels of protection. And that's actually just a little bit of what's happened. So quite a bit has happened and been accomplished since the last OSRP. Unfortunately, some of these efforts have also been met with challenges. So as I'm sure you all know, Southborough is under a lot of pressure to develop. And despite a lot of efforts, unfortunately, none of the priority parcels that were identified in this last one have been legally protected as of yet. So a lot of the land that was listed as high priority has either been developed or slated for development, which means a lot of prime wildlife habitat has been lost, and so have a lot of prime farm soils. So because of this, it's really important that the remaining open space parcels be identified and prioritized in this action plan for conservation.
So from the last public forum that we held here on February 4th, was it? So not very long ago, we heard a lot of great things from everyone who attended and developed a map based on hearing feedback from everyone and where they like to go and what they like to do in Southborough in the open spaces. These are just some examples of those valued places of open space and recreation here in Southborough, which include fields, trails, and conservation areas, as well as elements of the agricultural past of Southborough that help it retain its rural character. There are many places in the north of town which are connected via trails, and especially around the reservoir. And these trails are providing a regional connectivity, specifically the Bay Circuit Trail, which connects Southborough to the surrounding Boston Metro area, as well as the Burroughs Loop Trail and Sudbury Reservoir Trail, which connects Southborough to the surrounding towns.
So as we've mentioned, there's been a survey that's administered online, and if you haven't taken it yet, I encourage you to do so.
It can be
we'll provide
found.
the link. Yeah.
It can be found on the town website. I think it's the easiest way just because it's like, it's a strange chain of numbers and letters. So you go to the town website and put into the search survey.
So we've gotten about 200 results so far. And as of yet, what we've identified in terms of recreation needs, 80% of respondents so far say the town should pursue recreational use of the reservoir. It seems like there's strong interest in new facilities. And in particular, some of the facilities that have been most strongly recommended are bike and passive recreation trails, as well as children's play areas, potential new recreation and community center, neighborhood parks, and non-motorized boating. So these have kind of risen to the top so far. In addition, there's a comprehensive recreational and facilities study that's being conducted by the rec department, so that's currently underway. And so in addition to this survey, we'll be getting a lot more information from that study. In terms of conservation, so far 97% of the respondents to this survey want to protect open space in Southborough for a number of different reasons. So when asked what the highest priorities for conserving land are, 79% say their highest priority, it's very important, is to protect land for the conservation of natural resources. So clean air, clean water, wildlife habitat. Another important factor for people is to protect land for active recreation or for scenic value, passive recreation. About half of the respondents so far say it's very important to protect the farmlands and scenic rural landscapes, as well as for land of historic value. The survey also asked which mechanisms the town should use in order to conserve these spaces. So far the top result is to preserve conservation restrictions to create these open spaces. About a quarter of respondents so far say open space requirements within zoning, followed by a town-supported acquisitions program to directly purchase land, and then only a few said that soliciting donations of money to purchase land is the best option for the first priority. So prime farmland soils are one of the important factors to consider in terms of how to prioritize open land. Southborough has fertile soils and a long history as a farming community. So in the brown, the areas indicated in brown of the map are classified as prime farmland soil or soils of statewide importance, which means that they've been farmed for a long time by the NRCS, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service. So this is great for agriculture, as kind of implied, but also for biodiversity, because fertile soils often are able to support a wide variety of plants and animals, and so a wide variety of ecosystems. So local agriculture can be a great way moving towards the future to reduce carbon emissions, so this is a really positive move to make environmentally, because there's less travel from field to plate. So because of this, remaining farm appropriate soil is a really good metric to consider for the preservation of open space.
Another way to consider looking at parcels of conservation interest is the water resources of the town. So on this map, I'm sure you guys are all aware of Aqueduct, as well as the many wetlands and vernal pools throughout town. So there are many vernal pools scattered throughout the town in close connection to these wetlands. And there are 8 current certified vernal pools located in the southern part of town. And those are the dark blue asterisks. And the circles around those are the vernal pool buffers of 100 feet. The other dots with circles around them throughout the map are potential vernal pools, which should be assessed and certified when applicable. Because that could help protect them and the lands that they're on. And wetland buffers should also be increased to ensure effective protection. Another way of looking at the water resources of the town is lumping all of these water resources together, and that's what's in blue. The striped green is the protected open space and rec areas. And there's another area of the FEMA National Flood Hazard, which is a little bit hard to see, but it's the it's what becomes kind of like that lighter green overlay of the blue. So looking at these wetlands and vernal pools, these water bodies really function as the Earth's kidneys in a way to filter water and are critical to the groundwater quality, as well as habitat for dependent aquatic species. To name a few, spotted salamander, who are helped across the road at Bigelow Road up here, on amphibian big nights, which are currently still happening, probably towards end of March, pretty soon, right? And then down at Oregon Road, this little spring peeper. And many areas with wetlands and vernal pools, as you can see on the map, are not in areas of protection. Park Central is a new development that will be, has not broken ground yet over here, and it visibly has water resources on site. Prioritizing parcels for conservation can help protect these lands in the future and prevent that from happening again.
So another thing to consider when prioritizing land for conservation priority is wildlife corridors. So as demonstrated by this map, the red dotted lines, these are places where Southborough's existing open land connects really well with the open spaces in the surrounding towns. So as I'm sure you all know, the reservoir and river are surrounded by land that's protected in order to protect the water quality. And this creates a large contiguous area that is really great for wildlife habitat and for offsetting carbon emissions with so many trees and green space. So protecting adjacent land around this can just strengthen that wildlife habitat even more. So Chestnut Hill Farm, as you may know, up in just north of the reservoir, or north of the river rather, is an area that's not protected by the DCR, but is contiguous with that area as well. So these corridors are important now, and we're starting to see with climate change a little bit of plant and animal migration because of different changes in seasons. So strengthening these wildlife corridors can only become more important. This trend is actually seen on the watershed scale as well. So there's existing wildlife corridors in the Suwasco or the Sudbury, Aspet, and Concord Rivers watershed that pass right through Southborough. And so protecting open land in Southborough on these wildlife corridors can actually help strengthen the ecological integrity of the watershed as a whole. So there's, again, potential to expand upon these existing connections. And this would strengthen the ecological integrity of the land at the watershed scale. So in summary, there's wetlands abundant throughout, as Helmy talked about. They're especially concentrated kind of in the northwest and the southeast of the town. Open space in adjacent towns, as I just said, can connect with open space in Southborough to create these strong wildlife corridors. And undeveloped farmed wetland soils, which are especially abundant in the northern part of the town, are priorities for protection. So in summary, these areas of high ecological value that we've identified should be prioritized as protection from development because they're so important. And this map kind of summarizes that a little bit more with the yellow areas being identified as especially high ecological integrity. So in particular, these have fertile soil, wetlands, and they're contiguous with other open space areas to strengthen these wildlife corridors. Down in this area, there's a lot of concentrated wetlands, and then it can connect with the open spaces in Hopkinton and Ashland, as well as the Sudbury River, to create more wildlife corridors. Already developed areas can be great facilities for places like pocket parks or tot lots, or other rec facilities to bring these benefits of open space and rec to areas that don't already have a lot of open space.
So today we're going to be discussing all of the goals that we've kind of brought together from all of this information that we've gathered so far, from the public input, from these analyses, and from working and hearing back from the working group. So listed below are going to be 5 goals that are still in working form, and then after we go through those, we'll be going through each one individually, either as a group where we may have you break up into smaller groups at that point, to hear back from you about objectives that can be used to reach those goals. The first one that we've come up with is sufficient recreation facilities and infrastructure serve the community's growing needs. So you notice that all of these are in present tense because that's how the document is written, and it's a good way of affirming that this is really going to happen. Parcels of conservation interests are protected to support ecological integrity and connectivity of open space for people and wildlife. Existing open space parcels and recreation facilities are maintained and or improved as needed, and when applicable, they are expanded. Goal 4 is agriculture is preserved and promoted as an important aspect of community character. And number 5 is groundwater and surface water are protected as clean and abundant resources. So as we talked about already, we're seeking input at this point to identify more objectives under these overarching goals, and the working group will use this feedback to develop an action plan, which will be written up into the document, which will then be submitted to the selectmen and approved, and then we'll preserve lots of open space.
And the state test it.
Yeah.
Yes, state as well. So goal 1, sufficient recreation facilities and infrastructure serve the community's growing needs. So these are some of the objectives that we've come up with so far, and we are interested in hearing back from you all about other ones or issues or ideas that you have about the current ones listed as well. New development includes or funds recreation facilities. Fields for recreation purposes are identified for suitability. Multi-use trail and sidewalk systems satisfy the community's walking and biking needs, and the use of the Sudbury Reservoir for recreation is increased. And possible new facilities as needed are cited and funded, as we are still awaiting the recreational study that's going on right now.
So goal 2 is that parcels of conservation interest are protected to support ecological integrity and connectivity of open space for people and wildlife. So far we've identified that new parcels contiguous with open space around the aqueduct and reservoir are protected. Parcels of high ecological integrity are protected. The scenic cultural character of the town is preserved. Parcels contiguous with open space, particularly along the Bay Circuit and Burroughs Loop Trail, are protected for functioning of those trails. Connectivity of open space between municipalities strengthens wildlife corridors and contributes to the regional open space goals as defined in the Maverick study. Expanded trail and sidewalk systems promote walkability and bikeability within the town and decrease vehicular dependency. And where an endangered plant and wildlife species present in Southborough are identified and designated by the town and or appropriate state and federal agencies so that they can be legally protected.
Goal 3, existing open space parcels and recreation facilities are maintained and are improved as needed, and when applicable are expanded. We currently have 3 objectives under this one, so it'll probably be one that we're seeking many more for. Signs, maps, and user-friendly amenities are located for visibility and ease of use, really making the current open space and trails easier to use. There's a safe and ample parking at open space and recreation areas to fulfill user needs where appropriate, and ADA compliance standards are met and exceeded whenever possible.
So goal 4, agriculture is promoted and preserved as an important aspect of the community character. So land with agricultural capability is prioritized for conservation. The existing farmland is maintained as cropland or it's preserved as open space so that the possibility of future farming is available. Local farmers feel supported by the community and by the region.
And finally, goal 5 did not go there. Goal 5.
No, we just put 2 goal 5s in.
We put 2 goal 4s in. Goal 5.
Groundwater and surface water are protected as clean and abundant resources. So the public understands the importance of clean water as a natural resource. Southborough's water resources are identified and designated by the town and or appropriate state and federal agencies. And rare and endangered aquatic species are in the town waterways are identified and designated by the town or appropriate state and federal species like state and federal agencies like NHESP. So at this point we'd like to, okay.
So as we move forward, we're going to be working towards the 7-year action plan and drafting that, which the working group members will be using essentially this forum to help inform that direction. So we need input from you to create the remaining objectives towards those actions. And consider this your document. It really is an outline to help you achieve the goals that you set for your town. Thank you.
So at this point, we'd like to ask everyone to move over to the breakout tables, where we will gather more input on the goals and objectives.
People don't use their hands anymore.
It sounds like both groups came up with excellent feedback. So, is there anyone from each group who wants to present kind of some of a selection of the ideas that they came up with that they think the other group might want to share? I want to hear.
I'll just start with a couple of items,
Great.
and then the ones that I brought up.
Oh, and it'd be really helpful to reference the goal number
I will.
and
It's
letter
goal
when
1,
applicable.
and A is
Thank you.
new development includes or funds recreation facilities. One of the things we talked about was maintaining the existing things, including sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure the things that we have are in good condition.
Yeah.
Some of the sidewalks around town are not.
So updating the sidewalks or making sure they're in good condition. Okay.
Right. And also promotion of the use of some of the facilities. In my particular example was the tennis courts. I'll work with recreation on that. I'll try again this year to promote more efficient use of the facilities and try to get more people involved in using them, because then it's easier to keep them if people are using them.
Okay.
Well, we talked a lot about the Sudbury Reservoir for recreation and maybe having a group work with, come out of this to work on that, and looking at balancing the needs of passive recreation there, but also the existing wildlife use of it. As soon as you have people come in, you're impacting the wildlife, and as we keep going into more and more places, we're pushing and pushing them. People don't realize for every trail, there's hundreds of feet on each side
What
that
goal
are
is that?
impacted. This is just under the use of the Sudbury Reservoir, and that also is, that's goal 1D, and that also relates to goal 2F. For the expanded trails, wherever we're looking at trails, we're looking at what impact that has if it's in a natural area. And we talked a little bit about the difference between maybe the creation of parks land, which is a more urban idea than conservation land, and that not all land can satisfy both throughout. So maybe it's just something that if we're looking at acquiring new land or opening up new land, having those sort of management ideas up there foremost.
So maybe some kind of study or research into potential impacts.
And then we talked a lot about farming. And we were talking about how expensive the land is and the lack of people in this area that are farmers. The need to maybe acquire land and match it up with a farmer. The town of Bolton has the right to farm.
That's goal 4.
Thank you.
What is the right to farm?
Is that as of
We're going to
right?
look into
We
it.
don't
I
know.
think
Is that
it's
as
a
of
zoning.
right? As of right?
That no matter what zoning district in, it's okay to farm, but I'm not 100% sure. If we want to
Oh,
look into it.
There's signs in Bolton that they've seen, and they're going to find out what they need.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
the right to farm.
And that there's also different types of farming, and that you don't want to lose the remaining undeveloped parcels of land that have prime farmland soil, even if you're not quite ready to farm it now.
Right.
It's like putting money in the bank. Because, the country's food source is not as secure as one would hope. Every time you see, your price of lettuce going up because of something in California, that's a heads up. That if it collapsed, could Southborough beat itself?
Heavens, what if they run out of water?
Not even close.
So those ideas, and then how do you, subsidizing a farmer who can afford the price of land in Southborough to be a farmer who can't make enough money if they inherited the land. So how does that, what model, and looking into that. We talked a lot about, I'm not sure which number it was, probably goal 2, trails and sidewalks, the inability to get from the north side to the south side of town. A lot of conversation about a bridge over Route 9. And then how do you also, maybe something along the aqueduct, and what that would look like.
Like a sidewalk or something like that along on Route 85.
Because you really can't get from one side to the other.
I forget what they call those.
Overpass?
The ones that are on the sidewalk that jets out from the, do you know what I'm talking about?
You put one in Ashland on a small portion.
Cantilever.
Yeah.
So, and there was also talk about the need to have biking trails off-road because it's so dangerous to ride on the road, and that there is some talk about a trail coming into Southborough, the trolley line, and then and then on the other side of Southborough going out, and then what would you do in Southborough to connect on roads because we don't have the right of way. But there's also talk of connecting to the Charles River Trail. It's called the Upper Charles Trail, and we've had some discussion at the T station. That segment of land in Southborough could connect to land in Hopkinton and Ashland as part of a rail trail. It would probably not be paved, but
What's the one in Marlborough too? There's a trail in
Right.
Marlborough that's not very far from town.
That's a different one.
Bruce Freeman? It goes up to.
That's the Assabet.
the Assabet River Trail.
Right.
But, you know, looking at connectivity of where there were existing rail trails. And we also, parking was our big, not just for rail trails, biking, walking trails,
Yeah.
because if you're on the south side of town and you want to get to the Reservoir Trail, you need to drive there mostly, because you can't walk. And, you know, I believe there's the plan for one on like Ward Road,
There's plan for parking at the dead end of Ward Road. Yep.
and we were talking about more throughout town, because other places are closer to. So parking,
Goal 5, stormwater management.
Goal 5, we talked a lot about stormwater management and having increased awareness, education, but also requirements maybe, looking at that for less use of impervious surface, getting permeable parking, or if we're talking about more sidewalks, we're talking about more pavement, right? Is there another way of doing it? And how does that affect stormwater? Where does it go? Mentioned that on Southville Road when they put the sidewalk in for the train station. Huge increase in the amount of stormwater because the water used to go off the side of the road into the side, and then it would infiltrate into the groundwater. That's all becoming stormwater today. We're talking about more sidewalks throughout the town and paving more areas. We're going to have a lot more stormwater.
It's already come.
And also septic versus
There was a talk about the benefit of having septic versus sewer. And do you want to speak to that at all, or?
Well, thinking of, we were very lucky that we have septic systems because we're taking this wonderful water, which we're very proud of, and flushing it or letting it go down the drain, and it goes through the system and it puts it back in the land.
Right.
Which is wonderful. If we had sewer in this town, that goes and I don't even want to know where it goes, okay? And they generally, what they do is they can directly, indirectly tap some of the stuff that comes off the streets or what have you. It gets destroyed. It's terrible. And we're very lucky in that. And we don't want to disturb that. Here's another thing as a side. Let's just say all of a sudden we got sewers. We all, if we have houses in this town, we all have to have enough land to use, to absorb the water right now. So if you got a neighbor, for instance, next door neighbor, and you've got excess land, you get together with that person and get another building lot out of it, right? You don't need it anymore.
Many building lots would become available.
Boom, right away, bam, and it's just...
So increased density as a result of sewer.
And it just goes, what does it do to nature? All the animals, the birds, we can, our brains can go crazy over it. But, so we're very lucky on that.
So the goal is sort of to be aware of the benefit of
Right, well, we
septic?
be aware also, even though on Route 9, any large developments, make sure, and I say make sure, I have confidence in the town. They make sure that it's properly taken care of. But it's very easy to take a piece of land and to just go. Remember when we only go up, if we own a house, you only go up a couple stories. But you put a big apartment house in, which they're talking about in town, over near Route 9 and 495. You're taking off drastic difference. Along with parking that has to be provided, paved, road, paved.
So addressing stormwater and focusing on goal 5.
And
Right.
infiltration.
Right.
So we're nearing 9, so maybe if there's one more thing this group wants to say,
One
moving
more.
on to this.
The one more. Talked about extinction that many people aren't aware of. We have a Bumblebee Survey going on at Breakneck Hill, and there will be a workshop coming up about that on May 10th. And on April 26th, there'll be a workshop on pollinators and the pollinator gardens at Breakneck Hill. And we're going to be looking for volunteers for both of those projects. But what we have found out is that you think of extinction happening in the rainforest or in Africa. It's happening here in your own backyards at Breakneck Hill. And there are things we can do to change that process with our insects, which impact the birds, which impact the plants, and having more awareness and learning about small little things you can do in your own yard, as well as volunteering and helping out on the conservation land. It's a pretty big deal. So
If we're free, we're going to try to attend that too.
I hope you do,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
And we'd love to hear from this group and jot down some things that you guys came up with.
Yeah, she took the notes.
Yeah.
Do you want to read?
Sure.
Get the good notes.
Yeah,
What do you
Allison.
mean?
Well, did you want to talk about some of the recreation things we brought up?
Like better utilization.
Better utilization, adding
Yeah.
lights of town for you.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we're doing the facility study, the rec facility study. Some of my personal input towards this is looking at what we already have in existence and how we're using it. Can we reconfigure what we have to reuse it better? Personally, I would not want to go out and find some more land, clear it, and stick a field in there. That's not one of my personal goals. If anything, I'd rather light a field or a couple of fields to extend use of that. There is the want for a community center. Again, personally, I don't want to be looking at some of the protected properties or unprotected properties to put a community center in one of those spots. You know, I'd like to see if there's something that's already in existence, something like the Harvard Primate Center, you know, where there's already buildings in place that we could use that footprint, but keep the rest of the woods as is, maybe put some green area in there, but, you know, find something like that rather than bulldozing a field or woods or something for additional plains or fields. You know, I'd rather try and see what we have and utilize that, make it better, so that we're not, you know, expanding out anywhere.
That's called adaptive reuse.
Oh, okay. You mean it's already invented?
You could buy a building on Route 9. Buy one of those
Yeah,
buildings down on
existing
9.
buildings.
Yeah.
So that was what we were talking about on the first goal. What else did we say about the first goal?
Gym space.
Yeah, we do need, I feel like gym space is tough because we use Fay and St. Mark's quite a bit. If we lose that, we're in trouble. Lacrosse uses those properties a lot. They use their fields a lot. We don't have lacrosse on our own fields. You know, we use it for basketball. We use their gyms for basketball, and I don't think the gyms we have are adequate enough, especially also for like the groups like Council on Aging for their programs. A lot of their programs are out of town, and because there's no place here to do it. I mean, I'm talking about like, you know, real physical activities. So, you know, it's just, I think we need some gym space. So, that's it.
Another thing we talked about in this group was leading into yours, Freddie, conducting more flora and fauna surveys so that we can document.
Yeah, there's three items here that are linked together. Right? There's on two, there's parcels of high ecological integrity. Right? That's probably the goal. But then there's two things. There's I can find them now. Well, one
was it C and G
C
in 2?
C. Oh,
Right.
Oh, G, yeah. G under that same 2
And
was
then-
and then
and
down
then
at
5C.
C and 5C.
Are all
Both of
tied
those
together.
support that. And what was suggested was that you might want to have a regular survey in the town, whether it's the town does it or is it some organization does it. There'd be survey on a regular basis the town for endangered species and invasive plants, both of those things. So we would have a historical catalog of where we are with those, if anything's been changing, right? Even endangered but critical species and that type of thing, so that we would know if there's a change, especially with the invasives, because those, once you get behind on that, it's very hard to push them back.
There's a program called through the Suasco SISMA.
Yeah.
EDRR, Early Detection, Rapid Response.
That sounds like
So,
it. Yeah.
for established invasives, you're not going to get it out because it's so established, like bittersweet. You pick your battles. Some areas you just want bittersweet clear, but you're not going to get rid of it all. But if there's a new one that's showing up in town, before it's totally established, you identify it and then you come in like with the Ghostbusters and you're the invasive busters and you get that out. And there's actually an organization that's watershed-wide. It's called the Suasco SISMA. SISMA is, I forget what the C is, Controlled Invasive Species Area Network. The Stewardship Committee just became a member. SALT, Southborough Land Foundation, is a member. So we need to maybe partner with them more. We have done some in the past.
So would that be supported by, I mean...
The Conservation Commission could be a partner, and that would be a good goal.
Yeah, and we could support like an annual survey, right? Is that what they do or something like that, or?
We share resources,
Yeah.
But the town would have to do their own survey, but they can help when you find, that group has partners with Mass Audubon, New England Wildflower Society.
So they could be like consultants if we find something.
They're not consultants so much as you work together with them.
Okay, all right.
Nobody
Anyways,
has
yeah.
the one answer, but it's a way of partnering.
But there should be some kind of annual look. We should look once a year, to try and see if there's any, I mean, not that you'll always catch it, but at least you're looking.
Well, because right now, I don't think Southborough has any endangered species listed due to the
Nobody's
natural
looking.
heritage.
Nobody's looking.
And it's not because
We
there
try to
aren't
look.
any.
Yeah, we try, there is some
We
looking
do-
to it.
We
Yeah.
do what we can.
Yeah.
We have little surveys
Yeah.
here. We did the wildlife habitat
Yeah,
at
yeah,
Fields
yeah.
Preserve, and
But it's not
Well, it's
Full
one,
scale.
it's not town-wide.
it's not townwide, right?
Right.
It's spotty, yeah.
So one question that seemed like it came up was, who's the best person to do this survey? How does the town go about kind of funding someone or an organization? How do
Yeah.
they pick areas? So it seems like those are all questions that can be further
Right.
investigated.
first thing is mapping to see which areas might have it, because there are natural communities where you might find a certain species. You just don't go out looking everywhere because
Right.
you've
Yeah.
got to have a place to start, and that would be the place to start.
Yeah.
And under 2 also, I don't know which objective, but the evaluating the wildlife corridor because of Route 9.
Get rid of those Jersey barriers.
Get rid of the what?
The Jersey barriers. You get on Route 9, it used to, a long time ago, it used to be, years ago, they had a guardrail, and then the animals could go under it. It must have been 10 years ago at least. And they put up the Jersey barriers right down through the center of town. It's right through the center, right through town. No small animal can go north or south, you know. There's nothing can get by those things.
So the bridge we built could have a wildlife corridor, bike corridor, wheelchair corridor.
It'd be a wide bridge.
We put up signs to the wildlife. Bridge
The
this
wildlife
way.
could be underneath. Yeah.
Oh, sign,
Gone.
bridge, yeah, wildlife bridge this
They
way.
actually made one in Route.
Yeah, there are places that have them.
Yep.
Well, they're doing
But you gotta have a natural
they're
crossing,
doing it in
though.
Yes.
You gotta have a
California
natural
because
spot
their
for it.
freeway system
Oh,
is
that's
wreaking havoc on the
Yeah.
animals. And they have, I guess it's their
Yeah.
mountain lion that is
Freeways are wide and
endangered because of
huge.
that.
Oh, yeah, yes, they did that.
They're huge.
And when you're talking about corridors though, for climate change adaptation, north-south is more critical than east-west. And throughout the state, most of our corridors that are protected are east-west, not north-south. So the one on our map did go sort of towards the north on your map.
Right,
So,
but Route 9 is, yeah,
Issue.
a good point. That's a big issue.
okay for the birds and the butterflies, but
Right.
Yeah. The deer can jump up
They don't get run
Little
over.
raccoon
Yeah.
can't make it across.
there. No raccoon or skunk,
We talked about
salmon.
parking
Oh, right.
for trails, but
Yeah, they talked
they talked about it. Number 4,
We're gonna set up a farmer's market.
yeah, so that would be 4C,
Right.
bring a farmer's market to town. Maureen was doing that.
I was, but I passed it on.
She dumped it
Not
quick.
enough
I got that one.
time.
But that would be a great way to support local agriculture.
Carl, I know who to
Yep.
put you in touch with.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, do
yeah.
we? Oh, perfect.
Yeah, good.
Cool guy. Gene.
Yeah.
he's on the conservation.
Do you already know where you want to have this farmer's market?
There's so much
Just
competition
say-
We're
now.
talking right here
We'll find
across
out
the
later.
street.
Thinking
We'll
that
But
field
they're-
right across from
They're all
Chestnut
around.
Hills.
Yeah.
They're in
We
every
didn't want to
surrounding
compete against
community.
Chestnut. We don't want to compete
Well,
against
no,
No, no, they'd be
but
part
that's
of
Main
it.
Street on the other
I
side
know
by
they'd
the
be part of
reservoir.
it.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
And then
Although
they,
it
it's
would
just like an
be good
extension of
exposure for
Chestnut.
Yes, yeah, they certainly
Yeah.
come, set up,
Yeah,
people
I
find out
think
about
that
it.
would-
It was
I mean, if it was in their front yard, that may be problematic.
Yeah.
Right here is good. Yeah, I think this is a good spot.
Oh,
You
yeah,
have parking
right
and
here, right in the
everything.
middle of town.
Oh, I was
So,
thinking
yeah.
more like over at Castle Farm, because then you could have a little farming going on there, and a farm stand, and a farmer's market.
Yes. Where was that?
Or you can put a field in there.
As long as it's
With lights. With lights.
With lights for nighttime shopping. For nighttime farmers.
And
yeah,
music.
you put it in a rec field.
Music.
That's right.
Field.
Yeah.
Goal 6.
We have the only nighttime one, open till midnight.
Dancing for recreation.
That sounds better.
Dancing at night while you're.
Dancing
Freddie,
at
we're
night
gonna have to
on the
hire
roof.
you. I can't do all this.
Were there any other goals or objectives that you guys want to bring up before we close up tonight?
We did not like the idea of using the reservoir.
Yeah, we did.
We were just the opposite to you guys. We just around the table said, no.
We know it was big at the first forum. I
Yeah.
was not for it.
Yeah, we
For
did
what
that.
particular
Well,
reason?
as far as,
voting. Well-
for voting on the,
You know,
Support.
depending on, supporting programs like that, because, you know, now you're looking at town resources. You know, you're tapping into police and fire for safety.
And you're adding parking.
You're
and
adding
boat
parking,
ramp
boat ramps, and all that kind of stuff, and it's just,
And
Conservation
enough area for all of that kind of thing.
You don't know who's
conservation
gonna come.
doesn't go with more use.
and then you're
Right,
looking
right.
at transporting milfoil from
Yeah.
canoe.
Yeah.
Increased
You know,
use is not
it's
conservation.
just too risky. I mean, it's ideally, it's a
someone
great
say-
thing you could do, but then it's not.
Sort
It's
of
like,
impractical, yeah.
like I like
Advertise
canoeing, but
Hopkinton State Park. They have a great
exactly,
voting
yeah,
program.
it's already
Yeah.
managed,
Yeah.
they've got it under control, it's
it's just right next door, so let's keep it over there.
Save
Didn't-
some money for something else.
Didn't someone say that you might not be able to actually even have recreation on a reservoir?
You
Yeah,
can't.
the MWRA
can.
isn't gonna allow it.
It's backup supply, and
Yeah.
there's,
DCR is not gonna want
Oh, is it
it's more up to
MWRA?
the town to push or not push.
it. Yeah.
And-
I would say we push trails and stay away from
Yeah.
water.
Okay. I
But-
think we could all live with that.
Sigh.
Our point was,
Just go down the road.
but we also have to address the
Bird
fact
watching.
that it came up a lot from
It did.
other people, so
It
it's
did.
not on the
Beautiful.
table.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I would push
Much more
trails
than Hawkins.
Yeah,
in that parcel of land.
But you have to
Yeah.
bring
It's
it
not a
up.
good idea more than the water, because
Right.
there's more of an impact to the wildlife that don't have really any other place in town to go undisturbed. Anytime you put a trail in. I mean, some trails already traversing that property. And the question we come up with is, how many trails? I mean, let's get the ones we have right now in good
Yeah.
condition. I mean, the Reservoir Trail is just fantastic, and the Bay Circuit Trail is underutilized. Parking could help.
Absolutely.
Getting across the aqueducts and Route 9 could help.
All right, any last thoughts on any of these things? Do the working group members have anything to bring up before we close tonight?
There's still a few more days left to do the survey. I think March
Until
7th.
March
So those who haven't done it, please do. You can find it on the recreation website and on the conservation page of the town website. A link to it. What else?
I haven't done
Have you seen it?
anything. No?
Well, let's make sure you
Thank
get a
you
copy.
for your input.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Yep, do it on.